What's going on, ladies, gents, and kids of all ages? It is Eric coming back at you once again from the Nerd Cave, and today we are talking about a very spicy off-meta deck list. Seen a little bit of meta play, just a tiny bit. It's done well in some set champs. I had seen somebody with this particular list that I iterated on. I made a couple tweaks along the way, and we'll talk about those as we go. He did go to top 8 in his set championships. I think with the tweaks that we made to this deck, you could potentially push even further than that. Maybe you could push into the top slot. I totally understand why he made the choices that he made. Amber Sapphire lists have always done really well on the channel. You guys seem to love those. Amber Sapphire is a nice off meta color combination, and my Amber Sapphire hero lists have been popular in the past, and this deck kind of took concepts of the Amber Sapphire heroes list and combined it with concepts of a puppy deck in a way that I thought was incredibly intriguing, and I thought really finally made both decks feel really nice. So we're going to talk about the breakdown on this list. It's really a lot of fun. It's a super interesting deck list, so definitely stick around. Before we jump into that, as always, I have to give a big shout out to the Patreons for making the giveaways on the channel possible. We are just a couple short weeks from another big giveaway for a Reign of Jafar booster box, so if you want to get an opportunity to win that, make sure you're dropping your thoughts in the comments below on this deck list. And there were some other opportunities to get entered, so if you haven't been watching the previous videos on the channel, definitely go check those out. It goes back quite a few videos now. I drop 2 videos every week, so you've had quite a few opportunities throughout the month of July to get entered into that giveaway. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and talk about Amber Sapphire puppies. So the first card in the 1-drop slot obviously is going to be Patch, a 1-cost uninkable 0/2 stat line questing for 1 with Ward, which is a fantastic keyword, a great ability, we all know that. And when you have another puppy character in play, this character gets +1 lore, so not only does he have Ward, which makes him impossible for your opponent to target, they have to go with something like a board wipe, and then if you throw down another puppy, boom, all of a sudden this guy's questing for 2. Next up, everybody's favorite 1-drop for aggro decks in Amber, we have for Daisy Duck Donald's Date, a 1-cost uninkable 1/4 stat line questing for 2 with whenever this character quests, your opponent is going to reveal the top card of their deck. If it is a character card, they may put it into their hand. They may deny that trigger. They're not going to though. And if it's not a character, they are going to be putting it onto the bottom of their deck. So great way to funnel off those Be Prepareds and whatnot from that top deck in those matchups, as well as those Sapphire Ruby matchups have a really hard time taking advantage of Daisy Duck because a lot of those decks are playing 30 to 40 non-character cards, which sounds crazy, but obviously those decks work, but they have a hard time hitting triggers for Daisy Duck. And next up, our last 1-drop, we have for Popsicle, you know it, you love it, a 1-cost inkable item with when you play this item, you may draw a card and banish this item, remove up to 2 damage from chosen characters. So great way to keep some of those characters healed that we want to keep healed in this deck. Take a challenge and then heal it up afterwards, as well as just letting you draw a card. Drawing a card is always nice. The next card in the deck, we are playing 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 of, and that is going to be Dalmatian Puppy Tailwagger, a 2-cost inkable 2/3 stat line questing for 1 with you may have up to 99 copies of Dalmatian Puppy Tailwagger in your deck. We went ahead and did 2 copies of each art from the prior set where it came out, so really nice art on these. It's just going to generally be good in this deck. It's going to let you trigger Patch. It's a decent 2-drop as a 2/3 stat line. It's also going to be our potential shift target for another card we're going to talk about later on in the deck. But Dalmatian Puppy Tailwagger, not a card you want to play in most decks, but definitely a good card in a puppy deck. Still in the 2-cost slot, we have 2 Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain, a 2-cost inkable 2/2 stat line questing for 1 with while you have 2 or more other characters in play, this character gets +2 lore and is going to be questing for 3. You know him, you love him. He does die pretty heavily in a steel meta, which is why we are only on 2 and not 3 or 4. But in some of those games where they don't have or have used the direct removal they would use on Piglet, Piglet can be very good. Next up in the 2-cost slot, a card I have always loved. You guys know I've played this card since it came out. I think she's really good. I got foils of her right away, and that is 3 Anna Braving the Storm, a 2-cost inkable 1/4 stat line questing for 1 with if you have another hero character in play, it's definitely not hard to do with this deck. She's going to get +1 lore and effectively be a Daisy that doesn't let your opponent draw cards. Super good answer into the Steel and Ruby dominant meta right now. We are on 2 Ludwig von Drake. This is a card that probably only hasn't seen more play because it was made to be Amber Sapphire. If this was not a dual ink card first of all, it'd be broken, but if it was not a dual link card, I think it would see a lot more play. Amber Sapphire is not the most popular color combination in the world, but this card is incredibly good as a 2-cost uninkable 1/1 stat line questing for 1, and when you play this character, chosen opponent reveals their hand and discards a non-character card of your choice, so it's effectively going to do Bare Necessity's ability even better than Ursula, because it's going to be a non-character card, so you can hit anything even if it's not a song. And when this character is banished, you may put this card into your inkwell face down and exerted. Really the only situation where they're not going to be banishing this character would be if they were going to use something like a Let It Go, which is going to put it in your inkwell anyway. So typically they're just going to banish it. You're going to get a little bit of ink ramp early in the game, which certainly doesn't hurt. In those Steel and Ruby matchups, it's definitely a card that you love to see in your starting hand. Outside of those matchups, it's not great, and it's uninkable, which is why we're only playing 2. Next up in the 2-cost slot, this is a card that at first I was like, huh, and then I really got to thinking about it and how it combines with other cards in the deck and the evasive heavy meta that we're in right now with Cruella de Vil, a 2-cost inkable 3/2 stat line questing for 1, with during your turn this character gains evasive. So really fantastic way to set up to be able to take care of those Diablo as soon as they become a problem. It obviously isn't going to trade with a Genie or an Elsa, but we do have ways around that, as well as potentially trading one of these into a Shark, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Cruella de Vil not only on theme with the Dalmatian puppies, but she is actually really good in this deck. Next up, in the final 2-cost card, we have 2 Invited to the Ball, a 2-cost uninkable action. Reveal the top 2 cards of your deck with revealed character cards into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Anybody who knows anything about Amber Sapphire knows that this deck struggles with card draw more than anything. That is the biggest thing that's probably kept Amber Sapphire from being a more meta-relevant choice, but Invited to the Ball does help with that hugely. It's not inkable, but it doesn't matter, because when you have one of these, it's generally a card you're looking to play, especially as your hand starts to dwindle. Next up, we have another card that I have been a big proponent of day one. I'm happy to say I got foils of these when they were still pretty cheap, and that is for Alice Savvy Sailor, a 3-cost uninkable 1/4 stat line questing for 2 with Ward, and whenever this character quests, another chosen character of yours gets +1 strength and gains Ward until the start of your next turn. We already talked about what a strong keyword Ward is. It can put your opponent in a position where they have to board wipe, or they just have to take you questing in, which can be really, really menacing. It can put you in a position where you're just able to close out games without your opponent being able to do anything about it. Alice, really, really good, even if you're using that triggered ability to give a character +1 lore and Ward on a character that isn't exerted, and you're not going to be able to take advantage of that +1 lore on. You can potentially give a newly played character Ward to make sure that they're getting a quest going into that next turn. Speaking of cards with Ward and it being very good, another card I have been a big fan of for a long time is Wendy Darling, Authority on Peter Pan. I used this in this color combination in the past with World's Greatest Criminal Mind. There's no World's Greatest Criminal Mind in this deck, but she is fantastic in combination with Cruella de Vil, as she is a 3-cost inkable 3/1 stat line questing for 2 with Ward. So again, your opponent can't do anything about her outside of a board wipe. As a 3/1 stat line, same thing with Cruella, as a 3/2 stat line. They exist outside of where Sisu can banish them unless your opponent is playing Sapphire Quill, which does see some play, but definitely not as much as it did when it was new. And her secondary ability, Support, is going to let her give another character +3 strength when she is questing. So you can quest with her, give that Cruella +3 strength, make her a 6/2, and all of a sudden she's trading with those Elsas, she's trading with those Genies, she's taking out those Maui Sharks. So if your opponent's not ready for it, Wendy Darling can definitely put in some work, as can those Cruellas. Next card in the 3-cost slot, we're on 3 Belle Apprentice Inventor, a 3-cost inkable 3/3 stat line questing for 1 with during your turn you may banish chosen item of yours to play this character for free. Obviously the only item we have is Popsicle, so if you have her and you have Popsicle, she can be really good to put some early game pressure onto the board. But if you don't have her and you don't have Popsicle, maybe she's going to be ink by the time you're seeing her, but as an inkable card, still going to be really good, really versatile. This is the primary change I made to the deck. I didn't do a whole lot of tweaking with this. I dropped a Dalmatian puppy, and I dropped something else to go from the original list had 2 ladies to push it to 4 ladies. I can't stress enough, I think 4 ladies is really good in this list. As you can see, those lady lists tend to rely on 2-drops. This deck has a ton of 2-drop characters. Typically those decks looking to take advantage of Lady are playing about 16 2-drop characters. This deck is running 20, so it's going to make Lady really good as a 3-cost inkable 2/2 stat line questing for 2. Already a fantastic stat line. And when you play this character, you may play a character with cost 2 or less for free from your hand. So Lady is going to be really good to keep the pressure on the board. I think playing 2 ladies was a bit of a misstep. However, you do struggle sometimes with card draw with this deck, so maybe less than 4 ladies ladies is where you want to be. Maybe you go with 3, but in testing, I've really been enjoying 4 ladies with the amount of 2 drops that are in this deck. Speaking of cards that are really good with lady and some of those other questers, we have Sven, Reindeer Steed, a 4-cost inkable 3/3 stat line questing for 2. With when you play this character, you may ready chosen character. They can't quest or challenge for the rest of the turn, so he's not going to let you get extra quests in. What he's going to let you do is ready up those characters and keep them from being challenged into. So when you can get those ladies ready, all right, you're back in the position of you need to use direct removal to get rid of this. And if your opponent doesn't have it, ladies looking at questing again. So Sven can be a great way to keep some pressure on the board. Next up, and our only other 4-cost character, we are on 4 Rapunzel, gifted with healing, a 4-cost inkable 1/5 stat line questing for 2. You know you love her. When you play her, she's going to heal something for up to 3 damage, and for each damage healed this way, you are going to get to draw a card, which is the absolute best card draw that you can get in Amber Sapphire. I'd suffice it to say, if there was ever a kind of power 9 consideration for Lorcana, if you're not familiar with power 9, they're the 9 biggest, strongest cards from the beginning of Magic before they realized what they were doing wrong and needed to tone things down. I think Rapunzel could definitely fall into that category. Her stat line in combination with her questing ability and her cost, her ability to draw cards, is all just very broken, and I don't think we'll ever see another card quite like Rapunzel down the line. If they reprint her, I honestly think there will be a lot of people that will be mad. Although, you know, as somebody who owns 4 Rapunzels, I wouldn't hate it if she got reprinted. Next up, and the final card in the deck, and the only card in the 5-cost slot, we have 4 Thunderbolt Wonder Dog, a 5-cost inkable 3/7 stat line questing for 2 with Puppy Shift 3 and Bodyguard. He's going to be able to bodyguard all of those little wimpy characters in the early game, and he is going to come down super early. You're potentially looking at going turn 1 Daisy or Patch, turn 2 Dalmatian Puppy, turn 3 Shift into Thunderbolt, and you have a 3/7 that quests for 2 with Bodyguard all of a sudden, and you're really able to defend that one character that's down there. Or you throw more characters down on the board, you wait until like turn 3, you get Lady down, then you have a lot of guys out, use your turn 3 to play Lady with a Dalmatian Puppy, and then you go ahead and shift going into turn 4. You have a little more characters to protect with him at that point, and then you are potentially in a position where you're going to be going into stuff like Wendy. Wendy can be really good with him, and Popsicle to keep him healed up and keep him tanking attacks. But Thunderbolt, really good. I think this deck really focused on trying to put itself in the best possible position to deal with things like Be Prepared and Sisu, because those board wipes are your biggest enemy when it comes to trying to play Amber Sapphire effectively. I think the deck is still fast enough. It's very aggro. It's trying to be super aggressive into the early game. I think it's actually in a really good position in the current meta. I think it's something I would highly recommend trying. This is not a gimmicky puppy deck. This is a good, effective meta deck that just happens to be focused on puppies and is a lot of fun. What are y'all's thoughts on this deck in the comments below? Do you think it's better off to just go with a more traditional hero build when it comes to Amber Sapphire, or do you think it's worth it to play the puppies? Let me know and get entered into that giveaway. And as always, when you see those toys, video games, and big ol' Thunderbolts off in the distance defending the board, remember, it is not a mirage. You guys have a great day.